This is M21 to Soho Spring Street. Next stop, Grand Street and FDR Drive. Transfer available to M14 ASBS and M22. This stop is Grand Street and FDR Drive. Next stop, Lewis Street and Grand Street. This stop is Lewis Street and Grand Street. Next stop, Delancey Street and Columbia Street. This stop is Delancey Street and Columbia Street. Next stop, Columbia Street and Rivington Street. This stop is Columbia Street and Rivington Street. Next stop, Columbia Street and Houston Street. This stop is Columbia Street and Houston Street. Next stop, East Houston Street and Avenue C. Transfer available to M9. This stop is East Houston Street and Avenue C. Next stop, East Houston Street and Avenue B. This stop is East Houston Street and Avenue B. Next stop, East Houston Street and Avenue A. Transfer available to M14 ASBS. This stop is East Houston Street and Avenue A. Next stop, East Houston Street and First Avenue. Transfer available to M15 and M15 SBS. This stop is East Houston Street and First Avenue. Next stop, East Houston Street and Second Avenue. Transfer available to the F train, M15 and M15 SBS. This stop is East Houston Street and Second Avenue. Next stop, East Houston Street and Bowery. Transfer available to M103. This stop is East Houston Street and Bowery. Next stop, East Houston Street and Mott Street. This stop is East Houston Street and Mott Street. Next stop, East Houston Street and Crosby Street. This stop is East Houston Street and Crosby Street. Next stop, West Houston Street and Green Street. This stop is West Houston Street and Green Street. Next stop, West Houston Street and LaGuardia Place. This stop is West Houston Street and LaGuardia Place. Next stop, West Houston Street and Sullivan Street. This stop is West Houston Street and Sullivan Street. Next stop, West Houston Street and MacDougall Street. This stop is West Houston Street MacDougall Street. Next stop, West Houston Street and Varick Street. Transfer available to the 1 train. This stop is West Houston Street and Varick Street. Next stop, West Houston Street and Houston Street. Transfer available M22. This stop is West Houston Street and Houston Street. Next stop, Washington Street and West Houston Street. This stop is Washington Street and West Houston Street. This is M21 to Soho Spring Street. Please exit through the rear door.